You are listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paweta, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome everyone to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, my guest is Cody Butler. He's the founder of Better Marriage. He's one of the leading experts on relationships and happiness and overcoming substance addiction. And today we are going to speak about how to be leaders, not only in your business, but also in your private life, in your marriage. Hi, Cody. It's great to have you on the podcast.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
So, Cody, I know that you're working with so many people, what, in your opinion, is where do the problems in the work-life balance start? Because I think that when we are focusing too much on our careers, on our being leaders in the workplace, we sometimes forget about the work-life balance. So what are those typical mistakes that we start doing? Where do the problems start?
Well, I think a lot of us go into business, Elena, because we're looking for freedom. We're looking for, we believe that business is going to provide us security, financial security, so on and so forth. But the reality of the situation is it really does exactly the opposite. It creates a huge amount of insecurity, and it takes a lot of freedom from us. And our response to that, definitely coming from my own story and where I came from, my response to that lack of security was very negative. It was very negative. It made me difficult at home with my wife. It made me very unagreeable. I was stressed out all the time. I was neglecting my wife, and ultimately becoming dependent on drugs and alcohol as a way to overcome the lack of security that I was looking for. So when you put those things together, and the one thing that we're looking for is security, we get that taken from us, and then we replace that with very negative habits, and the end result of that is we end up with a mess at home. We end up with a mess in our personal lives, and quite often we're just so focused on the business that we fail to see exactly what is going on in our personal life before it's too late. And that's really where I found myself. I was really quite successful in business, but my marriage was on the brink of the divorce. My health was, I literally could have died any night of the week. The habits that I was engaging in and the drugs that I started taking, any night of the week could literally have ended my life. And it just took really getting to that point. The real turning point for me was my wife wanting a baby and me saying, I can't bring a child into the world, into this mess. I really can't bring a child into this mess. And that was really what woke me up and thought, okay, something's very wrong here.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think that some of our listeners can relate. We are focusing so much on our careers, on our businesses, and we want this freedom, but suddenly we realize that we don't see this work-life balance, and we're focusing on this area too much. Do you see that there is the way out where we can say, okay, this is too much and I need to devote a little bit more time to other areas of our life, especially that if we are so much engaged into developing our business, for example?
Yeah, look, absolutely, 100%. I mean, as business owners, as CEOs and business owners, our primary task is asset allocation. Where are we going to allocate our assets and our resources to? And the absolute best decision that we can make is that we allocate our assets into the lasting, into the relationship which is lasting. So a really bad investment is to spend a non-renewable asset in order to acquire a renewable asset. And I was speaking with a client today, and it's like, you've got your asset allocation wrong. I'm like, you're destroying a non-renewable asset, which is your wife and your relationship and your family, in order to have a renewable asset, which is money. You can lose all of your money, and within a short period of time, you can and probably will recover all of it, most of it, or more of it than you had before. It's a renewable resource, money, whereas your relationship is non-renewable. When it's gone, it's gone. So as CEOs and business owners, our job is to responsibly allocate resources and we're making bad decisions. And to use business language, it's like we need to really start to look at where do our resources need to be allocated effectively for the best return. And that is always going to be into the marriage. That is always going to pay you higher dividends in the long run than investing into the business in terms of time, effort, and emotional resources, so on and so forth.
Yeah. And what about people who say that, okay, I don't want to invest in these assets anymore because it is too big of a mess, and I don't want to work on this because here I have everything is, straightforward. I know what to do, but here it is so complicated. So do you have clients who say things like that, and what is the answer?
Yeah, so I don't have clients that say that, because the people that I work with are coming to me saying, I've neglected my marriage and now it's broken. I need help.
And they actually want to work again.
Yeah. They actually want to work out the relationship. But there are absolutely people out there that are just like, money will solve everything. The business succeeding will solve everything, and that is what all my attention, focuses, and resources are going to go into. So those people are certainly out there, but like there's a line that has to be crossed before I would engage with somebody, and that line is they have to acknowledge that there's a problem, and then they have to be asking for help, saying, I recognize that this is now a problem. I recognize that I don't have a solution, and I recognize that a solution is urgent and important.
Yeah, but you know why I'm asking this? Because now there is so much pressure and so much everywhere about that you can do everything by yourself. Very big pressure on individualism, that you don't need anyone. You can, visualize things and achieve things yourself. Yeah. And I think that this is not helping in the relationships. What do you think about this trend?
No, 100%. So, I'm faith-based in my approach to marriage. I'm faith-based in my approach to relationships. It's a traditional Judeo-Christian approach to relationships. So if somebody's coming to it with a view outside of that, again, I'm like, you're probably right, but I'm not the person to help you. So people that come to me traditionally are going to be like, we're in a traditional relationship holding traditional values, and we want to have a traditional marriage, which kind of eliminates that viewpoint to some extent. But you're absolutely right. I mean, even though the couples and the men that I work with don't necessarily hold that view, consumerism and the attitudes of the world have infiltrated that relationship. And even though they're not necessarily held up as a flagship view or belief within the relationship, they have infiltrated the relationship, and it's helping couples really uncover, what do you actually believe about this relationship? What do you actually believe about yourself? Not what are the superficial beliefs that we've been given from a consumer society that's just trying to get us to consume more. Because if we fall into that trap of adopting those views, which are given to us through Hollywood, through TV commercials, through advertising agencies, and through general consumerism, which is the real pandemic in the world today, consumerism, then these are disastrous to a relationship, absolutely disastrous to a relationship. I would say to people, you can have the relationship restored, but what you're going to have to give everything to it. You can have your relationship back, but you're going to have to sacrifice. You can't have consumerism and the relationship, at least not in the beginning.
Yes. So great that you're saying about this, that those two things, they cannot be combined. So we need to make the decision that we need to work on this aspect of our lives, which is so important. So when people come to you and they say that, okay, I want to start working on my marriage, I want to start working my relationship, but still I want to maintain my business, I want to be active at work. So what are the first steps that you usually recommend?
So the first step is to rearrange the thoughts in your mind. It's like, what is your prioritization? What are you prioritizing? Like, how is your wife ever going to feel special? How is she ever going to feel loved? How is she ever going to feel adored? How is she ever going to feel the way she wants to feel, to behave the way that you want her to behave towards you when she's at best secondary? Or, I had a client I was working with the other day, and he's like, my wife, she just says she doesn't love me anymore. but it's like you're treating her like an employee. She does your payroll. She sends out your email. She manages your schedule. It's like, do your employees fall in love with you? And he's like, no. It's like, so treating somebody like an employee is not conducive to them falling in love with you. You're treating your wife like an employee. So can your wife have that role in the business and be your personal assistant and work with you in that role, or even be not necessarily a personal assistant to be demeaning, but it's like, can she have that role in the business with you and not be treated like an employee? Because if she's treated like an employee, she's going to act like an employee, and that's not the relationship you want, right? So it's really asking the person, where does this person figure in your hierarchy of priorities? If you had to choose between A and B, where is she in that? Where is she? If it came down to choosing between the business and her, what would you choose? And if you're being completely honest, or if you're on holiday and an emergency comes up and she really needs you, are you going to tend to the emergency, or are you going to tend to her needs? Where's the prioritization? Because you can have both. Again, like, I'm faith-based in my approach because it's practical. And Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and all of these things shall be added to you. He said you can have it all, but there's an order of prioritization. You have to seek these things first. And if you do, you can have everything. And I take that same approach to marriage. Seek first the love of your wife and all things will be added to you. Prioritize first the love of your wife and all things will be added to you. Or the other way around. I mean, I'm saying, I generally work with men, but it's the same the other way around as well. So it's just a case of, if you want everything, you can't put a roof on a house before building the foundation, right? There is an order, there is a sequence of events, and we need to make sure that this sequence of events is prioritized in the right order in your mind. And then we can start to rebuild, and you can have everything, but there is an order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we first need to understand what is the priority for ourselves. Yep. Maybe also to discuss it within the family. But what if someone does not want to, let's say, work, and they say, okay, that this marriage can be saved? So you say that there are actually situations where it can be saved. So how can it happen?
Almost every situation. So again, I'm speaking from the perspective of men whose wives are leaving them, because that's generally who I work with, is men whose wives, and men are terrible. Like, we wait until the number of times I get a phone call saying my wife's just left me, can you help me? Or I just got a letter from the lawyer out of the blue, can you help me? It's like, did you see no warning sign? So it's like men tend to leave things very late. So a lot of times, so to answer your question, we've got to understand the language, right? We've got to understand when a woman says, I no longer want to try, what's she actually saying? She's saying that it's pointless, right? It's pointless. I've tried so many times and nothing has changed. It's now pointless. Or I'm exhausted. It could mean I'm exhausted. I have nothing left to give to this relationship. It's not that she doesn't want to try, it's just that she feels it's pointless. Or it's not that she doesn't want to try, she's exhausted and can't try anymore. That we have our limits, right? So it's understanding. You've got to start looking at and retrospectively looking at your actions and behavior and saying, was I giving or was I taking? Was I giving there or was I taking? Was I giving or was I taking? And quite often you find that you take, all actions are taken, and then it's a case of, okay, well, let's switch this around. Ask yourself the question before you say something, you do something, you act in a certain way. Is this for her benefit or is this for my benefit? Whose benefit is this for? Because again, I'll speak to a lot of men and they say, well, my wife asked me for space, I gave it to her, and it's still a problem. It's like, well, why did you give her the space? Because that was the right thing to do and she needed it, or because you thought if you give her the space, she'll invite you back? It was selfish. Your behavior was selfish. And when you get to the root cause of the behavior and turn things around, because again, we've got to understand, right? If we want to have a solution, Elena, we've got to understand the root cause of the problem. So the root cause of all problems in marriage is there's only two reasons your wife or your partner said yes to you to start with. That was because they loved the way that you made them feel, and they felt like a future with you was better than a future without you. So if they're saying no now, if they're saying they want out of the relationship, the exact opposite is true. They hate the way you make them feel, and they see a future without you as being brighter than a future with you. So these really are the two things that we need to address. can you make your wife feel the way that she wants to feel? Is that within you? Do you have that possibility, that capability? And how do you present a future to her that is more compelling than a future without you? These are the only two things. And quite often what has happened with business owners, it's like empty nest syndrome, right? It's like the couple start out moving towards a shared vision and goal, then they wake up one day and find the metaphorical child has left and they're by themselves. The business owner is over here completely engrossed in his business, and she now has a completely separate life. So it's like, well, how can she see that a life with you is better than a life without you when she has no role in your life? How can she like the way you make her feel when your business is more important to you than her? And usually at this point, the light bulbs go on and go, oh, I've messed up, haven't I? It's like, it's okay. There's still time. we just have to place focus and make effort in the right places. Learning love languages is not the way forward. Learning conflict resolution is not the way forward. It's like making her feel, or allowing her to feel like a woman the way she wants to feel, and showing her a future that's brighter than it is right. These are the ways to move forward. And if you can do that, the situation will turn around 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, I think that, I love it, that we need to show the future is better with us than without us. It's the same that we do in business, right? When we are selling our products, when we're selling our services, we're like selling the value of what we're offering, of our courses. And here, I think that at some point we just stop selling. Yeah, we stop offering and giving. So it might be definitely the reason. And what if one partner wants to work on the marriage and the other partner does not want to cooperate, does not want to work? So do you have such cases, and what to do in this case?
Almost 100% of cases, almost 100%. So again, it's understanding to solve the problem, you have to understand the root cause. It's like, if you've got a health problem, then you have to understand the dietary causes, right? You can't address the health problem if you don't understand the lifestyle that's causing the problem. So it's the same here. It's like, we've got to diagnose, why is your partner saying that they don't want to try anymore? And again, it's only two reasons: they're exhausted and they physically can't try anymore. There comes a point where you literally go, I have nothing left to give to this relationship. And the other reason is going to be that they think it's pointless. They've tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and just nothing's changed. And really, it's like some very simple strategies that can really turn things around very quickly. It's people will apologize. Like a man will say, I'm sorry, you're right, I leave my socks on the floor all the time, I apologize, I'll pick them up from now on. And then nothing changes, and the man goes, I don't get it, I apologized. And it's like, it's not apologizing for what's been done. You have to understand the impact of what's been done. And what's been done here by leaving the socks on the floor is you've invalidated her feelings. You've invalidated her feelings. She feels invalidated. She feels unheard. She feels like she has no say. She has no role in the relationship. So saying, I'm sorry for leaving my socks on the floor, well, whoopee-doo, so what, right? It doesn't mean anything to me. Well, why doesn't it mean anything? Because that's not the problem. The problem is, you've ignored me. You've invalidated me. You just rode roughshod over my feelings. You've given me no say in this relationship. And it's like, when you can go back and say to that person, look, I'm really sorry. I know, I understand now that it's not about leaving my socks on the floor. It's about the emotional impact that that's had on you. And that emotional impact is that it invalidates, you don't feel like I'm listening to you. You don't feel heard. It seems like I just don't care what your emotion, how you feel in this relationship. I get it now. It's not about the socks. It's about the impact of the socks. I get it. And then the other person will go, thank goodness for that, because there can be no solution without an acknowledgement of the problem, right? It's like, I picked my socks up. What's the problem? Well, I don't care about the socks. It's like, now you're not taking the garbage out. It's like, now you're not cutting the grass. Now you're not watering the flowers. It's like, it's got nothing to do with these things. It's like, I'm trying to tell you that I have no voice in this relationship. And the second the man can go, or the other partner can go, I get it. You're upset because you have no voice. Let's work on, and that's my bad. I've completely shut you out of this relationship. Let's bring you back into it. Let's give you a voice. The other person just goes, oh, thank you. That's all I wanted. That is all I want. That's all I was asking for you to listen to me. And it's really that simple, but most men will go, well, what does it matter if I pick my socks up? You're so petty, it's ridiculous. It's like, understand the issue. You're missing the issue. It's not petty. So yeah, so that's just a simple example, right? But yes, like if the other partner is not cooperative, it's because they feel like cooperation is pointless. Show them that it's not pointless.
Yeah, and we need to get to the root cause of the problem always, not just see on the surface what is going on, but also to find out what is the real cause of the issue. So thank you so much, Cody. It was such an interesting conversation. I wanted to ask you the last question based on what we discussed. So what would you recommend men, mostly because I know that you work with men, but also women who are listening to us who want to work on their work-life balance, on their private life, not only on their professional life. So what would be the first thing to do and the most important thing to do where they can start?
Prioritize it. You know, I mean, it happens to me all the time. I had a conversation with my wife the other night, and it's like, we're really not living the life we could be living. We're cheating ourselves. There's robbery going on in our house. It's like there's a thief in our house, and this thief is stealing our youth. It's stealing our experiences. They're stealing our joy. It's stealing our. There are so many things that we're being robbed of right now because we're not addressing this. So the starting point is always prioritizing the relationship and saying, okay, we're going to do whatever it takes, right? We're going to do whatever it takes to make this relationship work. So there are two aspects, really, two attitudes. I would say when the attitude is right, the facts don't matter. And the two attitudes really that if you adopt them, you will succeed are, I choose commitment over convenience. And the other one is like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I choose commitment over convenience to make this relationship work. And I'm going to do whatever it takes, because commitment and convenience really generally don't live on the same street. People will they'll do what's convenient, and they'll do what they're comfortable to do, but they won't commit to it. They won't make commitment over convenience, and they won't have the attitude of whatever it takes. So have those attitudes and just sit down together. Or if your partner won't participate, say, this is my priority. Getting this problem solved is my priority. And then the rest will start to unfold a little bit. When the student is ready, a teacher will appear, right? That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah. And I think that those attitudes that you mentioned, we adopt them so often in business. We say, oh, I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve success, to I don't know, earn more money. But it is so important to have this attitude also in your private life. So thank you so much, Cody, for reminding us about this. So if our listeners want to contact you, want to ask more questions, to reach out, to find out about your program, where they can find you.
So I'm readily available on social media. Just search Cody Butler, Facebook, LinkedIn, I guess. I'm readily available. And the business website is bettermarriage.com.au. That's a good place to, tons of free resources on there to help you improve your marriage. You can also reach out and contact me through there. We also offer a free introductory session as well. If you want to see how we can help you improve your relationship, we offer an hour session for free, which you can schedule on the website, and we'll look at you, give you a marriage evaluation and tell you what your options are.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cody. Thank you for being on Ideas and Leaders podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.